Testing 1, 2, 3. Background. Testing 1, 2, 3. Dear. So, welcome. I'm just waiting for 2 p.m. to come. You want to get there early. So welcome. It's just after 2 p.m. Tuesday afternoon. Must be time for question time with Dil, the party wall guy. We're going on YouTube this week. We're just having a switch around. So let's get going. Let's get on with it. Okay, quick introduction. Every Tuesday just after 2 p.m. we do a show called Question Time with Dil, the party wall guy. That's me, by the way. My name's Dil Gujral. I'm the chief surveyor at 1996 Party Wall. We do party wall stuff, as it says on the tin. There's my contact details if you want to connect with me. And every Tuesday we bring you a show discussing the aspects of the Party Wall Act. Right, let's get going. Thank you. First of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your valuable time. Most valuable resource we have in the universe. So this is a question and answer show, and every Tuesday we look at all the questions. If you've got questions, please send them in. I can see some popping up now. It's all driven with the audience, and I like to. Usually, what I do is questions one week, I present the next week. So just try and give you more detail. Try and make it visual so that it has more of a learning process, more of an impact. So that's the idea behind all of this. So great. This is what I'm going to do today is a simplified introduction to the party wall process. So just going to do a simplified intro. And a few months ago, we looked into this. We're going to go back onto it. Right. So, did I press that? Yep. Okay. So we're looking at residential building owners' perspective. So if you're a homeowner and you're looking to do an extension or a loft conversion or take your chimneys out, we're going to try and guide you through the step-by-step processes of doing a party wall notice. And the reason why we're doing this is we want you to know how to serve a party wall notice correctly. This is the government booklet. It's a very good booklet. If you Google Party Wall Act or anything to do with party wall, boom, this will come up first on the page. It's actually a very good booklet. They did a revision last year, and all they unfortunately did was change the red cover to the white one and change the logo. But essentially all the rest stayed the same. It was written back in 2002. Party Wall Act came into law on 1st of July 1997. It is actually a very good PDF, good booklet. It's weak on about 3 or 4 aspects, and I'm not being I don't know what the word is. I'm not telling them off. In fact, some friends of mine were in the committee that wrote this book, but they missed out on 3 or 4 aspects. And I guess what happens is as practice or as ways of doing things evolve in real life, things change and it's different to how they expected. So it was about 18 years ago it was written. So first point is it's really, really weak and weak on on its templates for notices. So people always get it wrong, and part of it's because it's complex. Second part of it is because they're really hard to use. So the templates are difficult. It's quite weak on how to serve notices properly, which connects onto the third or this part B of the point. What do you do if you don't receive a response? And it's got a little problem with the detail of how the third surveyor comes in. So roughly there are 4 weak areas, and that's part of the reason we get a lot of questions around those areas. Having read it a number of times, we realize that's what's driving the questions. So getting on with it. What we decided to do was create this additional PDF. You can get it on my LinkedIn. If you can't get it on there, drop me an email. More than happy to send it out. As people would say, it's an addendum, or if you're in the Party Wall Act, it's a further guidance. It's a little bit of nuance there, just being a little bit pernickety. But it really basically get the booklet, read through it for all the details, really good illustrations, type A, type B. We haven't repeated all of that detail. So what we've done is keep it very brief. I think it goes to about 20 pages or something, although I've tried to keep it to the brief points, put some infographics to help you. That's the main part. It relates to this part, which is the which is a checklist, and this is the part we want to get through to everyone. Yeah. So roughly speaking, this is the process, not exactly what we're refining as we go along. So the process related to this checklist is as follows. First of all, you have your project. So that's your project. That's what you're going to do. Come more onto that later on. Build a rear extension, do a loft conversion or a chimney. Now, the Act doesn't talk about projects. It talks about sections. In fact, it talks about notifiable works. So you've got to think of all your works that you're doing. There are section numbers which relate to certain types of works. Yeah, I'm going to go through more of that in detail shortly. So if it's notifiable, there's a section number for it, and there are rules to see if it's notifiable to the adjoining owner. So that's the sort of process. So out of your project, you have to determine the notifiable works and then which properties they apply to. So for example, if you're excavating, that could be notifiable under section 6. Now, whether it's notifiable or not depends on your neighbor's property as well. So hence, just to take an example, if you've got section 6 works, i.e. you're digging a foundation, that could be that's a notifiable type of work. So you're digging a foundation. Yep. Now, the next point is is your neighbor a notifiable property? So are they, for section 6.1 works, are they within 3 meters? If they're beyond, then they're out. Then you don't need to worry about them. But if they're within 3 meters, the next aspect you have to check is, are you digging below the foundation? Now that's a really hard bit to actually do in real life, because excuse me, normally it'd be quite straightforward. If you've got old properties, pre-76 is the timeline that we usually use. They're going to have shallow foundations, they're notifiable. Post 80s, they're going to have deeper foundations. Probably not notifiable, but you should still check. So just tick that. What you're actually doing is saying, is it found? Obviously, if you're doing a loft conversion, you're not going to be doing any foundation work. Sorry about that. You're not going to be doing any foundation works. You're simply going to be doing an excavation. So look at the rules for that type of works. Excavation, in particular, section 6.1. There's a cheap way of doing it, and I'll go through that next week. Basically, if you're digging up to 3 meters, you're looking at section 6.1. This isn't the actual rules. This is a cheap way of thinking, but it's a cheat rule if you like. If you're going more than 3 meters, you're probably looking at section 6.2. It also depends on the slope. So that's why I can't be exact on whether it applies or not. It's all go, isn't it? So what I'm trying to explain is, out of your project, look at what the works you're doing. So if you're doing excavation, i.e. foundation works, look at the section 6 rules. Then see if the neighboring property is notifiable. Now, the sharp amongst you will say, well, it's the adjoining owners you notified, not the property. Yes, that's correct. Now, here's a bit of back and forth, and I sat there, I thought about this, and said, we're not actually explaining this correctly. There's an iterative process. You find the property, you do the land registry search. Depending on what you come back from the land registry search, that determines who are the owners that are notifiable. It's a bit weird, so there's a bit of back and forth, yeah? Actually, it might be this way around, but anyway. So you've got to do, so if they could potentially be on the same property, you could have 2 owners that are notifiable. It probably goes around this way, but we'll have to look at that. Let me have a think on that. It made sense when I put this slide together anyway. So you get the notifiable owners, okay? Now, the other rules for, if we're taking section 6.1 example, I might do a work through on this actually. So 6.1, you're in a semi, yes, the other half of the semi is notifiable, but what about the folks across the driveway or the alleyway? That depends how wide that width is. So they may not be notifiable. Yeah. So there you go. There's the rule for the property. And then once you do the land registry search, depending on who the owners are, so it could be leaseholders, freeholders, and all of that, they could be notifiable as well. Yeah. So what you're saying is, let's go by the rules. And if you imagine it's going to get narrower and narrower, project, notifiable works, notifiable property, notifiable owners. That's not a very good funnel, is it? But pretend, right? So down there, you've got, these are the people we need to notify. Yeah. It's not the property, it's the owners or the either the people or the entities. So they could be owned by limited companies. So these are the notices. And then you create the notices for each of those. Yeah. So in my example, jumped a bit, got four owners that are notifiable, 4 properties that are notifiable. Obviously, they're going to be addressed to the owners. Yeah. Now, here we've got a project where normally people go, I'm going to have the loft done and I'm going to have a rear extension. I'm going to do the chimney. So boom, 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 3 types of works. So I've just illustrated this with 4 different types of notice for properties. So it could be more, it could be less. It all depends on the situation. So that's a rough outline of how the process works. Now let's try and look at it in detail. And before do that. I'm going to try something new in the background, so stay with me. You should just, okay, right. Actually, I should have done it now, right. So a bit of housekeeping. Okay, so let's have a look at number one. Out of this list, assess who the notifiable adjoining owners are. It's there, so I've just focused in on it. And let's see how we do that. Assess who the notifiable owners are, notifiable adjoining owners. Okay, so as I said, assess the notifiable works, determine the adjoining owner property. So focusing in on it, our example project is a rear extension. The section 6.1 works, section 6.2 works, and section 1 notice. So those are the three types of notices. It'll probably be 6.1 or 6.2, but not both. You either do a 6.1 notice or you do a 6.2. The section 6.2 supersedes the section 6.1 notice, so therefore, no, so forth, right? Actually, I just realized a project that they're going to be doing a section 6.2 works. They haven't served a notice. Oh, crikey. Anyway. Yeah, it's a retaining wall's gone into section 6.2 works. Sorry, because they're doing piling now. Different scenario, right? So it's either 6.1 or 6.2, but you can't do 6.1 and 6.2. It's a little bit of not semantics, but it's application and understanding the 6.1 and 6.2 rules. You'll have to watch that video on it. I'll try and cut it out. Cut you the video out, right? And then section 1 rules. Section 1 is my favorite section. It's the most useful. It's one everyone should like, but nobody understands. Very few people understand the intricacies of it, right? So here we're pretending we're doing a rear extension. So 6.1 or 6.2, maybe section 1, right? They're all 1 month notice works. And the other thing you'll realize is that section 6.1 and 2 are automatic descent, whereas section 1 is automatic consent. That's quite good, that is actually. If you're taking chimneys out, yes, chimneys are notifiable. They're the ones that are more likely to cause damage. And actually, it's second most likely to cause damage apart from basements. And it's a 2 month notifiable note. Those works are 2 months notice period, and it's automatic descent. So be aware of that. There you go. These are for each type of project. These are the type of works we're looking at, and so that's the most common one: rear extensions or lofts nowadays. Chimneys have been. I don't know why people take chimneys out, but anyway, that's my bias view. I'm not going to go on about that. So here's the sample notices. This is in the booklet. Boom, boom, boom. There's 1, there's 3, and there's 6. This is what they look like. Fill in the order. Cross out the bits you don't need in the case of section 2, 3. There's iron where you just cross it out, whichever one it is, and that's it. We've tried to keep it as simple as possible. I'm not going to say idiot proof because that's not really true. These things are difficult to do. They're not easy. Yeah? It's not as simple as people make it sound. So back to our little project. If we're doing a rear extension, notifiable works are section 6.1 or 1 or section 6.2. Determine what those are. Look at the rules for each of those section numbers. So that's where you have to go away and look at the rules and see if it applies to that particular adjoining property. And this is where you go back to the land registry, you do the search, see who the owners are, see if it's a leasehold, freehold, flat, if it's split into flats, if it's, so on and so forth. If it's not, you come back and rule out the property. So what you start with, these are my works, these are notifiable works. Come a bit faster. These are notifiable works. These are the properties that those works apply to. That's the property that work applies to. It could all be different, yeah. And that then you look up the adjoining owners. That's where you said your notices to. And there's a process for doing it, and that's the other bit that's wrong. The people get wrong, and then you draft your notices and you create individual sets. So the other reason I've got 4 of these is, if you imagine a semi, you're taking the chimneys out, so they're going to get extension notice, section 1 notice, chimney notice, and possibly a loft if you're doing the loft. You've got a driveway or an alleyway, it's less than 3 meters. All they're going to get is an excavation notice. Yeah. So those two are different. It's the same works. You're doing the same works. Notifiable works only apply to that property in a different way. They apply to the other property in a different way. These are the intricacies that you need to understand. So that's assessment of who the notifiable adjoining owners are. Okay. I'll do a bit of housekeeping in the background. I'm just trying to. So by the way, if you're trying to work out what I'm doing, I'm just trying to use Zoom in a slightly different way to just a little bit of housekeeping going on in the background. If it works, I'll share it with you. It's just an interesting idea I've come across. So number 2 on the list. For each property adjoining owner, you need to do a land registry search, yeah, to get their details. Now, this is quite important because you need to serve it to the right person at the right place, yeah. And this is step 2 on the list. Here it is, we've highlighted it, and you can't see it there, but there's a link to the land registry. Now beware, there's 2 things to be aware of on the land registry. A, the link to find, to register as someone who can go there and search, I think they've lost it somewhere. I've got a friend who can't find it, who can't get himself actually registered. He's had lots of difficulties getting himself registered. And, you know, you'd think it's a basic thing. You go there, do the search. You've got to have a login. All right, you create the login. You can't find it. And he uses lots of tech stuff. He used to work in tech. So be aware of that. From my last conversation, I think you have to do a search. If you don't have a login, do a search and then create a login to be able to buy the details. And the details cost you £3. Not the worst scenario in the world, but every little helps, as they say. So anyway, so you do the search, then you create the login, and then you buy the land registry search. So be aware of that. And I did create a course a few years back. I think it's on Udemy actually, how to do land registry searches. That was an interesting one. I'm in the middle of creating something else. And the text moved on a lot better. So the tech's really interesting now. Okay, getting on with it. So you do, there you are. You determine the works, you've excluded some of them, you search the properties that you need to notify to work out where the owners are. Now, this is a common question we get for rental properties. So a lot of the times people will say, well, it's a rental property, I don't know who owns it, tenants live there, what do I do? So there's 2 ways we do it when there's a rental property. We look at the land registry search, and this is the process we're obliged to follow. We send it to the owner's address on the land registry search. In fact, I've got really great samples. I'll dig them out. I won't spoil it. I'll dig them out on the next show. So all you're obliged to do is send it to the address on the land registry. Now, a lot of the time there's either accidental landlords or people property owners who say bought the original house, decided to move, use that as a rental property for pension or whatever purposes, moved on to the next one, but haven't changed their registered address. So the address is that property, although it's rented. So it'll be number 1, the avenue, even though they've rented that property. Yeah, and they haven't changed it. So all you need to do is to send it to that address. Now, the other thing that'll happen is you'll either get, and this happens quite a lot nowadays, there's people that have updated their land registry details. So they'll get, and a lot of the time it's in limited companies who are their accountant's firm. So that's where you send it to, and we send 2 copies. One to the property, one to one to the registered address. So that's the other reason you get multiple notices. We're actually sending 2 copies of the same notice sometimes to 2 different addresses. Just make sure you understand that. If you do a land registry search and it says, this is a property, these are the owners, and that's their details, you should send it to both. You can hand deliver it. We're going to come to that. But it's almost, apart from the factor that you're informing your neighbors, it's almost pointless in official terms. Yes, it does count as a service. If you look at the booklet, yeah, you've served it, you put it in the post, you've given it to the people next door. But if they don't respond, it's no good for the next step. And this is one of the shortcomings on that process that is described in the government booklet. So that's what we mean for looking up each adjoining owners. So that's what you do that for. Okay, a little bit of housekeeping here, quick one there. Right, what are we looking at next? Okay, that's useful. Now, next step number 3, for each notifiable adjoining owner, fill in a notice template. So that's step number 3 on this checklist. And again, back to this table. So if we're doing a rear extension or a chimney, or the one in the middle is a favorite, everyone, because I'm guessing everyone thinks they can get a bedroom and they can use it in the office in the daytime because they're all working from home. And it's nice and quiet and they can pretend they're not at home, not open the door, although everybody is at the moment. So that's why lofts seem to be a favorite scenario at the moment. So for each type of works, you'll pick the notice number that notifiable notice you'll need to complete. And then look at the rules for that particular notice. So here's an example, as I've shown you before, just moving back and forth. So for loft and chimney, it's notice 2/3. So there's your section 2/3 template. And if you look very, very carefully, you might see it, might not. Basically, those are the ones to do with the loft conversion. That's the chimney. And there's raising the party wall as well. I should actually move that over there, but I didn't want to confuse people. So that's roughly in the template. Let's go back again. So just to fill in more detail. So a couple of questions here you'll get, and that's why do I put section 2.3? Okay, so section 2 is the description of the works that are notifiable under the Act. So if you're cutting into the, and 2's got a whole list of them here. I think it goes from A to N, just from memory, A, B, C, D, all the way to N. So it's actually section 2, subsection 2, and A, B, C, D, E, all the way to N. Okay, so that's why nobody can find these when they're trying to fill it in the government booklet, because the list is too long in a sense. Yeah. And then section 3 is the description of the notice you have to give to notify your neighbor of the 2.3 works. So that's why I'll put it down as 2.3, because this is intended for, I'm guessing for the people who use it ad hoc rather than on a daily basis. So that's why I just wanted to make that clear. And the other thing you'll see is loft conversion and chimneys have the same section number. In fact, basements use the same one as well. Reason for that is in the section in the Act, it's all about the type of works, not the project. They don't actually care about the project you're doing. It's all about, is a part of your project that element of the notifiable works? If so, you have to give notice. If it's not, they don't care what project you're doing. So you could build a rear extension, and if you don't need, if the rules for section 6.1, 6.2, and 1 don't apply, you don't need to give them notice. And this is why I always talk about what are the rules for it. So it's a bit weird. You have to, in a sense, to get your head around this process, you have to understand it this way, i.e. project notifiable section number, works, so on and so forth. But when you're looking at notifiable, then you have to go off on a tangent and look at the details of each of those notifiable works and see if they apply to that property owner. So it's a bit of they're doing that, coming back, rather than a linear fashion. You do 1, 2, 3. It doesn't work like that, and this is why it's really difficult to explain. Hence why I'm trying to say you need to understand the rules for each section number and if they apply to that adjoining owner's property. So have I missed it there? Okay. I'm going to go back to this illustration there. So this is why you go project, notifiable works, and I've combined it in there. It perhaps wants to be separate. Determine the property that those rules apply to. So section 6.1 may not apply to both neighbours, or may apply to 3 neighbours, 3 or 4 neighbours if you're looking at outhouses. So if you're looking at this example, find it. So if you're looking at the outhouses and it's section 6.1, and you're in the back garden and there's 5 other neighbours surrounding you, and they've got shabbily built garages or sheds on stone platforms, on concrete platforms, potentially all 5 could apply there. Yeah. So just to make you aware, it's sort of an iteration process, and that's the hard bit to get your head around. So this is why we've tried to spread it up, and I'm guessing it's working on an online course. You've got to think of this as non-linear. It's not A, B, C, D. It's A, D, F, C. You know what I mean? So I might have to map that out a bit further. So we're going to go to step 3 today, and we're going to have to come back to the rest next week. Let me just do my housekeeping. So, okay. Right. Yep. So we're going to go to step 3 today, and next week we're going to look at step 4, section 6 notices, drawing, and so on. So this is what we're going to do next week. Please join me for next week. We're going to have to cut it a little bit short. Got to get some notices out, actually. So we've got all this to come. I'm going to go through all the 10 steps properly and hopefully get it to you. Try and get it across to you how all this gets done. There's all the various slides that we're getting ready for this stuff going on. So, coming to the end of the show, thank you for our sponsors. Crikey, this is going to take forever getting through this stuff, but it will be useful because I'm going to try and link it. So it's Wren Kitchens, Sanj at Wren Kitchens. Thank you, Sanj. There's his details. If you're doing rear extensions, go and connect with him. And I think I've got his right slides. I might get told off for it, actually. Oh, crap. Wrong. Old slides. So Ranjit, hopefully you're there. I'm going to try and bring you on so we can share your new slides. Right. Are you there, sir? I think you should be able to talk. Yep.
Yes, I'm here, sir.
How are you? I've got an old slide in this presentation, so apologies for that. Over to you. Bless you. I'll stop sharing slides so you can share slides, he says. Well, hey.
Yeah.
Yep. Over to you. So first of all, Ranjit from Property Investor News, aka the Maharaja. Thank you for sponsoring our show. We couldn't do it without you. And I'm going to let you do the intro because then I'll have some feedback on it. It's a really great issue, this January's issue. So off you go, sir.
Yeah. Can you see my slide?
We can.
You can?
Yep.
Okay.
We can even see it on YouTube. We're doing it on YouTube this week.
Okay. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ranjit from Property Investor News. We've been publishing Property Investor News for over 18 years. Who is the Property Investor News magazine for? Property investors, developers, traders, land buyers, solicitors, accountants, surveyors, and the list goes on. What will Property Investor News do for you? The education, the knowledge to ask the right question, the information to weigh up the deals, the strategy so you could decide what is right for you, and the confidence to go ahead. Key articles in our current issue 2021. Opening comments from our editor Richard Bowser. UK property news, landlord jailed trying to illegally evict tenant and more. News analysis, home track, housing demand up 33% compared to a year ago. Development and planning news across UK cities and towns. Great tool for researching areas to invest in. News analysis, Hong Kong to UK. News analysis, house prices. Average property up 10,000 plus. 2020 housing stock worth £9 trillion. Investor interview, property funding by Mike Bristow from Crowd Property. Commercial property disruption or opportunity in 2021 by Susie Carter, Chartered Surveyor. Investor opinion. What does freedom look like in 2021 by Helen Shawley, investor and investment banker. Planning matters. Plan a way forward in 2021 by David Camp, planning consultant and barrister. Party wall matters. The 1996 Party Wall Act by Dil Gujral, founder of Party Wall Question Time every Tuesday, 2 o'clock, and you're on one of them today. European and worldwide news, and much, much more. Subscribe to Property Investor News and read all the articles in greater depth. Remember, question to ask yourself, that changes everything. What is going well? Question for you, do you have the expertise and the knowledge, the insight to adapt and prosper? Let us help you on your property investing journey to success. Subscribe today, ongoing education, in-depth market analysis every month. You'll have access to 15,000 keyword search articles, 250 plus videos, and webinar archives. Subscribe for just $7.95 a month, because property investment and development is for the brave and the bold in these changing, challenging times. Therefore, we have put together a bold offer. Learn from the past, plan for the future. That is on the screen in front of you. It's an event offer, not online available. Therefore, please follow the instructions. You will receive, once you've subscribed, you'll receive in the post 6 issues of Property Investor News magazine and our 200th issues, and also a free book, Before the Hammer Falls, written by 2 auction experts. Then send me an email with your name, postal address, and the long reference number which the system will generate. Remember, the power to change life lies in the simplest of choices. Every day you have a choice. Stay the same or change. Why stay the same? Subscribe to Property Investor News. Stay on track with up-to-date information, knowledge, education, and much, much more. And also just remember, the more you sweat in training, the less you bleed in your field. Back to you, Dil. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Ranjit. Very kind of you to sponsor the show. We couldn't do it without you. Just to recap, this is a great issue in January. Not only because I talk about I'm just kidding. So section one article is very good, very interesting in the party wall bit. But even more interesting is Susie Carter, really good commercials, property surveyor. I've actually shared the stage with her. Again, David Kemp, super guy, knows his stuff. We've had him on one of our other things that I do. John Corrie, I think, is the other chap, the American chap. He used to work for Silicon Valley, so there's a really great lineup in January. So if you don't subscribe, forget the old slide. Really go for it. And the book's written by the auction experts. Ranjit, thank you very much for sponsoring our event. Really nice to have you here. We couldn't do it without you. And look, I've had to cut it short this week. Usually I love hanging on and doing extra stuff. We'll be back next Tuesday. Look forward to it. I'm watching myself on YouTube. Sorry, that's why I'm getting a bit distracted. So thank you very much. You've got me doing that, haven't you? So thank you very much for this. We're going to finish this series off next week and go through all the lists properly and hopefully help you to serve the notices. Look forward to seeing you next week. Take care. Have a good weekend.